Hi everyone. So this video is going to show you a few of the warm-up sequences that we'll do in my live classes in the month of January. And so you can take a look at this before you come to a live class. You have an idea of what kinds of movements we'll be doing. You could also look at this after class and see where you still have questions or were confused. And this is meant to support you in your practice so that you're not having to look up at the screen too much to see what I'm doing. I can sit and watch you a little bit more so that I can properly teach you and guide you based on what I'm seeing. Okay, so this is meant to support your ongoing yoga practice. Okay, so what you might like to have is a blanket or towel for your knees and a couple of bricks, some sturdy bricks, some thick foam or cork bricks would work best, just so you can place a good bit of weight into them. Okay, so we're going to start on our hands and knees. Okay, so the first sequence involves warming up the shoulders, the wrists, the hands. So what you're going to do is start to sway from side to side. And as you sway, I'll invite you to move your spine in a fluid, kind of open, organic way. You can let the head and the neck move, but you're basically shifting weight between your right and your left hands. And as you do this, you can start to turn your hands into different directions and placements. So you start to bear weight in a different way. You're warming up the range of motion in the shoulder joints. You can come closer to your knees or further away. The further away, the more challenging. Okay, we'll do this for a bit and then we'll come back into center and we're going to do a wrist stretch. So you're going to lift your right hand, point your fingertips towards your right knee, and then press into the back of your hand so that you feel a little stretch along the top side of your wrist. And from here, we'll bring it back into a sway or a circling motion as we bend the elbow and start to work through the top of the wrist. So I'm just kind of rotating and bending, putting as much pressure as I comfortably can onto the back of the hand to open up the muscles in the tops of the forearms. Don't often get paid attention to so much in some of the yoga postures we typically do. Okay, I'm going to set that down and take the other side. So you lift your left hand, point your fingertips back towards your knee, and then press into the top of the hand. Again, bending the elbow, creating a little organic, free-form flow, working out for the wrist. The closer your hand is to your knees, the less weight you might need to put on it. The further away, the bigger the ask of the weight bearing, of the range of motion. Keeping that in mind. Okay, and then we'll come back down to hands and knees. I'll invite you to really kind of press into the finger pads and lift up through the center of your palm. So there's a little bit of a doming action. It's almost like when you lift the arches of your feet. And so that's just so we don't dump into the wrist joint. Okay, so a little bit of that sense of lifting up through the center of our palm as we drop our belly, lift the chest and reach the chest forward and up. So this is cow pose. Cat pose is the opposite. Chin and tail are going to curl under. And you're going to push into your hands and spread through the upper back. And we'll do this a couple of times together. Perhaps breathing in as you drop the belly, lift the chest. Breathing out as you round through the spine. take a child's pose, balasana. So your toes are going to touch, knees will move wide. If you have a brick, you can place the brick underneath your forehead as you sit back towards your heels and rest the forehead on the brick. If you don't have a brick, you could stack your fists and rest the forehead down. And we'll take a couple of breaths here. The reason I elevate the head is just to give you a little bit more access to the length of your spine here and finding some ease through the chest so that you could potentially breathe a little bit more easily. After a couple of breaths, we'll come back to our hands and knees. Okay, so when you come to class, we'll actually be doing this in sections and parts. We won't do it all together, but here's kind of the progression we're working with. You're going to hover your right hand and then maybe hover your left knee. And we'll take a couple of breaths like this. Okay, finding that doming of the palm and really rooting into the opposite support here. We'll take the other side. Left hand will lift, right knee will lift. And as you do this, finding a nice long spine. You'll set it back down. Hover your right hand, left knee again. And this time we're going to float our right arm forward, left leg back. And I'm trying to keep both of my shoulders and sides of my chest and both of my hip points facing down. I'm going to swing my leg forward and back. And as you do this, you might start to say hello to the top of your shoulder and arm, your deltoids here, as well as your bum and your hamstring, which is the back of your thigh. Okay, try not to find too much arching, so dropping of the belly, we want to keep it long. Okay, we'll do this a couple of times. And then I'll ask you to hold and reach the arm and leg out. And so later on in class, we're going to progress this by bending the knee, pointing the toes up towards the ceiling, and reaching the arm back and around. And I'll invite you to, as you can see, I'm turning my palm open to the side of the room so I can really let my chest lift. So as I lift my toe and I reach my arm back, I'm going to find a little bit of a cow pose in my spine, so a little back bend here. Okay, the final part of this progression will be to maybe catch the foot. You can catch it on the big toe or pinky toe side, and then start to kick the foot into the hand as you reach the chest forward. And the whole time I am trying to keep my chest and hips relatively steady down in the direction of the ground rather than kind of twisting or opening. But I'm trying to find length through my spine in both directions here so that my low back doesn't feel too compressed. Okay, we'll hold this for another breath. And then we'll release hand. Curl your knee in towards your nose and set the knee down. Okay, I'm going to pause for a moment because that was quite a doozy. And I'll show you what that looks like on the other side. So again, in class, we'll be kind of building up to that final posture, but just so you know where we're headed. Okay, I'll turn to the other side so you can see it. Okay, so we're going to hover our left hand, right knee, so opposite side, and we're going to swing forward and back. And again, as you're swinging, we're trying to find that nice, long, supple spine. I'm feeling into my bum, my hamstring, and the top of my shoulder. And then I'll ask you to reach and hold. And as you reach, you are working towards bringing the arm by the ear and the leg nice and high without dropping the belly. Then we're going to bend the knee, point the toe up towards the ceiling, and reach the arm around, palm facing open. And it's in this posture we can start to take it into a back bend. So I'm lifting the thigh up and lifting my chest up. You might stay here or then start to grab pinky side or big toe side, whatever feels available to you, and start to kick the foot into the hand as you reach your chest forward. And my two anchor points are my bottom hand and my shin. And I really want to pay attention to these two places. I'm starting to open the throat, take my gaze maybe a little bit forward, but not crunching in the back of my neck. Okay, we'll take one more breath like this. And then release the hand, curl the knee under. And set the knee down. And rest. Okay, so that's sequence one. Second sequence, I'm going to show you from the front. So we're going to step our right foot out to the side. Okay, and then we're going to sit our hips back towards our heels for a moment. I've got my back toes tucked for support, just so you can start to get a little stretch in your inner thigh. Okay, and then we'll come back up to hands and knees, and I'll invite you to come up to your knee and shin. Okay, so everything feels nice and stacked here. We're going to interlace our fingers behind the back of our head. Lift the back of the skull, lift your elbows up and feel the back body get wide. And then we're going to take a side bend up and over to the left and back to center. And we'll do this a couple of times. The more used to it you get, the more you might want to pause in different places, let your breath go slower. Okay, but you might breathe in as you go up and over. Breathe out as you come back to center. We'll do two more together. I'm moving from my hip. Okay, and then from here, we're going to lift our toes, point them up towards the ceiling. Draw your kneecap up towards your thigh so it's active. And right now we've got our inner thigh opening. Slide your right hand down the thigh. Your other hand's going to come to your ribs. We're going to move in and out of this. So inhaling as you slide the hand down, lift the ribs. Exhaling as you come back up to center. We'll do twice more. And with this one, we're really bending at the ribs, the waist, so there's a bit more of a curve. Okay, later on in the class, we'll come fully into Parigasana gate pose. So that'll have our toes back down. Yeah, we'll slide the hand down the thigh and we're going to reach the left arm up. We might play with gaze here. So we might look up towards the hand or down towards the foot. Okay, and I'll give you both options in class. Okay, then we'll rise up, hands to hips. Heel toe our right foot forward into a lunge. Okay, so I'm going to show you from the side what will happen next. Okay, so we're going to take a twist, what's called a closed twist. Okay, so that means you're twisting towards your front leg, or as it sounds, you're closing the gap between you and your legs. An open twist would be in the opposite direction. Okay, so I'll have that open palm again, so facing in the direction that I'm twisting, and you'll start to slide it down the outside of your front shin. Now you go as far as feels comfortable. This is a movement really coming from the hip. Okay, but you might slide it all the way down to your elbow. Other hand is to your low back, and you'll turn your head towards the back shoulder. And then we're going to slide back up, and we'll do this a couple of times. So we move in and out of things to get the body a little bit more used to coming into these postures. And you can use the arm as a guide for the shoulder, the chest, and the ribs. Okay, and then finally we'll stay. Now this progression is going to move into a prayer twist, which I'll guide you through in class, but just so you kind of know what that looks like. Okay. But one thing you might like to focus on as you stay here in this first version is to press the back of the arm into your thigh, thigh into your arm, and that will free up the chest to rotate. Okay, and then we'll release. One more warm-up movement in this sequence. I'm going to grab my bricks. You stay where you are. We're going to work in a half split, so half Hanumanasana. Okay, so we'll start to send the hips back and flex the front foot so we get a big stretch on the back of the leg. And then we'll lunge into the front foot, let your pelvis, this big bony bit, drop down. Do this a couple of times. So whenever we're doing a rocking movement, this is a great time to play with 1/2 of your breath per movement, right? So I might inhale as I send my hips back. Exhale, rock into the front leg, or do it the opposite way. So inhaling as I lunge forward, exhaling as I sit back, and see if it does different things for you. Okay, and then we're going to set ourselves up to stay in half Hanumanasana. So I want to keep my hips balanced over my knee now. Instead of sitting back towards your heel, you're balanced up. I want to find a long spine, which is why I have my bricks on the highest height. Makes it really much more accessible to find length. Back through my tail, forward through my chest. And then I'm going to flex my front foot. And my knee is bent here, and that's absolutely fine. What you want to find is a comfortable kind of full extension to the back of your leg. So your knee might be bent. Some of us, our knee might be completely straight. Okay, so that'll be very individual. And then from here, as we focus on that nice long spine, we're going to take it into a twist again. So that palm is open towards the way I'm twisting. And then I'm pushing into my brick to turn the chest, playing with my gaze moving towards my back hand. Final movement will bring to the arm up and overhead, palm facing down. And this is a good opportunity to kick the heel forward, fingers forward, as you drag the hip back. So getting a big side stretch. And then rest. Okay, so we're back on hands and knees. We're going to take the left side. So step your left foot out to the side. Sit your hips back towards your heels. Into that inner thigh. Okay, we'll come up to hands and knees. And then we'll come up to knee and shin, so stacking. From here, we're going to interlace our fingers behind our head, elbows lifting up, back of the body broad. Side bend up and over to the right as you breathe in, and then exhale back to center. Do this a couple of times. Remember that you're moving from the hip. Okay, we'll take the other side bend. So we're going to flex our foot, point the toes up towards the ceiling, draw the kneecap up towards thigh, and then slide the left hand down, right hand to ribs. And do this a couple of times. And as we do this, we're really bending more in a curve, so from the waist. You can even let the head drop down if you like. Okay, a final variation of this, we'll point the toes forward again and take Parigasana gate pose. So you'll reach the right arm up, slide the left arm down, and breathe here. And depending on the week, I'll give you different cues and things to notice and think about. But you might turn your gaze up towards the top elbow or down towards your bottom foot. Coming all the way back up, we'll heel toe our foot forward into a lunge. Okay. So we'll practice the prayer twist prep. Your opposite hand to front leg will guide you into the twist. So remember, this is a closed twist. Okay, so I'm sliding my right hand to the outside of my left knee, palm facing open, again, so I can sense the chest opening, rather than palm closed. Okay? Notice how that kind of rolls the shoulder in, makes it less accessible to open the chest. Okay, do this a couple of times. Other hand is resting on your low back, and you're maybe looking, following the spiral of your spine, looking over your back shoulder. Okay, I'll ask you to stay here. Later on in class, you'll get the option of coming into prayer twist. So that could be bending the elbow palms together tucking the toe, lift the knee. Okay, and then the final bit of this warm-up, hands on your bricks. Breathe in as you drop your pelvis forward. Breathe out as you sit your hips back, half split. Okay. Or you could practice a different breathing action. So we're keeping a long spine for this one. I mean, it can move around a bit as you move in and out. Okay. But eventually when we come into stillness, so let's do that now, we're going to find that length. Okay, so I'm balancing my hip over my back shin. I'm using my bricks to lengthen my chest forward. If this feels too high, you can put the bricks lower and lengthen your chest. I already feel by going down lower, a bit of a deeper stretch here. And then we'll take it into a twist. So that left palm open as I twist, I'm kicking my foot forward. Arm will reach up and overhead. And I'm dragging my hip back so I get that side stretch. And release. And then we'll carry on with the rest of our class from here. Okay, take a moment, take a child's pose if you like. Maybe lie on your back and rest for a moment. And so that was the 3 kind of basic warm-up and progressions that we're going to be exploring in January's class. So if you're a beginner, new to yoga, definitely watch this video a couple of times so you can kind of get a sense of what we'll be doing. Don't worry about doing what you feel might be too, quote unquote, advanced or a little bit too big or effortful. You can always stay at one of the first or second progressions. And you can always rest when you need to. Okay, so I'm gonna be making another video on the standing bit of the sequence so you can have a look at that when you have time. And I look forward to seeing you in class this month. Take care.